Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi, and these are today's headlines from the past. On this day, the 11th of November, we first begin with the commemoration, the general commemoration being celebrated of the feast day of Saint Menas or Manas, who was believed by the Greeks to have the power to locate lost objects, especially sheep. Today, several people of Greece and of Greek origin mark the feast day of Saint Menas or Saint Manas. Following the celebrations of the feast day of Saint Manas, we mark the armistice of the First World War that would take place at the 11th hour of the 11th day. On this day in 1918, the armistice was signed between the Allies and Germany in a guarded railway carriage in the forest of Compiègne in France. To mark the occasion, 3 years later, the British Legion held their first Poppy Day. Irving Berlin's patriotic song God Bless America was sung for the first time in 1918 by Kate Smith. In 1920, the body of the unknown soldier was buried under the Arc de Triomphe in France, while the body of an unknown British soldier returned from France was interred in Westminster Abbey. The ceremony was recorded using a microphone by Lionel Guest and H.O. Merriman, the first electrical recording ever made. And so, this would mark the end of one of the most terrible wars, which would unfortunately not be the last of its kind. However, at the time this war, just to give a notion of how brutal this war had been, the war was regarded as the war to end all wars. Continuing on this date on the subject of combat, in 1940, the Willys Motor Company launched the iconic Willys Jeep, one of the most iconic off-road vehicles produced by the Americans. This would be regarded as one of the Jeeps to have won the Second World War, given its durability and its multi-purpose and its therefore rugged ability to cross different areas, be it desert, be it mud, be it forests, or be it water bodies. Thus, its introduction today would be a historical event. Continuing on this date, the 11th of November, in 1952, the first video recorder was demonstrated at Bing Crosby Enterprises in Beverly Hills, California, by inventors John Mullen and Wayne Johnson. The invention of the first video recorder would therefore be one of the most iconic inventions of the most iconic piece of technology still in use today. Following the invention of the video recorder in 1975, on the subject of groundbreaking events, Angola became independent from Portugal, ending one of the last Portuguese colonies to take independence from Portugal. This would therefore be one of the most significant moments in the history of human events. Prior to this, in 1975, Australian Prime Minister Gough Whitlam was dismissed by Governor General Sir John Kerr. This would be because he was unable to get his budget plans through Parliament and he refused to call a general election. Therefore, this would be one of the most significant moments in Australian political history when a Governor General would use his executive powers to dismiss the government of a Prime Minister. Therefore, the events of Angola's independence and the dismissal of Prime Minister Gough Whitlam are two of the most iconic events to occur in 1975 on this day, the 11th of November, 1975. Moving forward, in 1988, Soviet cosmonauts Vladimir Totov and Musa Manarov spent their 326th record-breaking day in outer space. This would be a significant moment in the history of the Soviet space race. By breaking an international record, the Soviets, supposedly in their mind, had put the American space efforts to shame. This was the spirit behind the Soviet and American space race. Now we move on to the next segment of our show where we recount the famous births and deaths of famous figures from the 19th and 20th centuries and sometimes earlier. Born on this day in 1898 was René Clair, French film director who also made films in the US and Britain, including Under the Roofs of Paris, made in 1930, and I Married a Witch, made in 1942. And prior to him, on this day in 1885, George Smith Patton, the American general who commanded the American troops in North Africa in the Second World War in 1944 and 42, was born. He is regarded as one of the most iconic generals of the Second World War. He is also remembered for his command of the Third Army, which swept across France, earning it its independence from Nazi occupation. Another significant birth to occur before the birth of René Clair was that of Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky. Yes, the famous Dostoevsky, the iconic Russian author who wrote books such as Crime and Punishment, The House of the Dead, and White Nights, was born on this day. Unfortunately, on this day in 1936, Sir Edward German, English composer of the Merry England tune, passed away. His death would be followed by that of Jerome Kern, US composer and creator of stage musicals, including Showboat from 1927, who would pass away on this day in 1945. And on that unfortunate note, we conclude today's headlines of the day. You were watching and listening to Historian Radio's Echoes of the News, and I am Muhammad Hussain Qazi. And these are today's headlines as history first heard them. Good night.